Megan, how do you feel? What do you want to get out of this?
Kelly, today I feel I'm okay. I'll be completely honest, obviously. I feel a little bit frustrated because probably over the last few weeks, the salon's been doing quite poorly. And Jerry's business has been doing quite poorly. So it's been a bit of a strain financially. I kind of feel like with the salon, I just keep chasing my tail. I'll chat to you about the scorecard though shortly. I'm also a little bit frustrated with the lease, because I've got a letter here I'll show you as well that they sent back, not to do with the negotiations, just to do with the fact that they said I hadn't exercised an option. But I'll show you that shortly. So I think that's how I'm feeling today, just probably a little bit disheartened. But I think that happens in business. So I'm keen to have a chat this morning about those things. So yeah, Kelly, how do you feel, and what would you like to get out of our meeting today?
Well, I'm with you. I can't stand, for me, April is the worst month of all in business.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see, like, to me, April in Australia, they should just declare a month's holiday. Because it's so frustrating. To me, the frustration is you don't know whether you're at work or not at work. You don't know whether you're doing business or not doing business.
Mm-hmm.
It's an extremely difficult time. And then, like, for me, it's the time where you consolidate and you just say, okay, I've got this going on now. How do I get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I imagine the building trade is saying, well, why start?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because you've got all the holiday pays you have to pay and all of that stuff. You know, seems to me that April's the month where the owners become slaves.
Mm.
You know, become slaves to their bloody, what they call, you know, all the benefits that we have to give out. And I don't mind benefits. What I mind is this not being able to recover.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, to me, poor numbers are relative, and that's what we have to look at, is the relationship of the poor numbers and then the motivation as to how to get back to the other side. So I'm with you. This is, in my belief, the most frustrating, unless you own a coffee cafe, because I imagine that they've done very well in the last couple of weeks with people not knowing what to do.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm with you. Cash flow is always tight at Christmas and Easter.
Mm.
So it's a matter of how do we navigate our way through, and so we just look at how we navigate. So I'm with you with the frustration, and the only way I know how to get to the other side of frustration is to work through it.
Yes.
And then decide and say, okay, well, we're going to get this done, and then you have this flurry of activity, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, you start to move this way, and then
Mm-hmm.
right. So okay, so yeah. In and of myself, I feel okay, but it is, to me, I don't see why we just don't declare a month's holiday and not pay holiday pay.
I agree. I agree.
Because that's the crippler always.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I can't understand why the employer becomes the slave. And if you understand, all
Yes.
employers understand what I'm saying. We become a slave to the rules.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Anyway, start away, Megan. Where do you want to start?
Okay, I might just go through this letter quickly.
Okay.
Bring it up. So this was sent on supposedly on the 12th of April. So I'll just scroll up.
Okay.
I'm just going to check that amount too.
Okay, so in respect to the exercise.
So
Is this the same rent you're paying this last year?
I'm just double checking, Kelly. I think that's the new rent. I'll just pull up one of my. So per month, I'm currently paying 3,563, including outgoings.
3,563, and they're going to take it to 4,700.
And the 3,563 includes GST. So I pay roughly 3,123. That's my rent, including GST.
3,000.
123.12. So that figure's made up of my rent, which is 2,839.20.
So what we're doing is we're multiplying that 3,123 by 12, right? So we go 3,123.12 times 1,2. Well, I must be doing something wrong. So it's 3,123.
3,123.
0.12. That's times 12. That comes out to 37,477.44.
3,747.77.
Yeah. As current 34. So that's not even your current rent.
No.
And then plus GST, and that's plus GST, right? But you're saying it's inclusive of GST. The 3,123.12 is inclusive of GST or non?
Correct.
It's inclusive.
Yes. So the rent is, I'll just show you.
So your rent is in fact 33,072.96. Around there, right?
Correct.
Okay, plus the 4,798. That's the outgoings, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So we've got that. So that's an increase. If I look at that, minus 34.070.
I don't know where they get the 4,798.8 per month. So the 3,4,0,0,540.
So, I mean, so it's in effect what they're saying is going to go up $3,000. Because you said you paid 31,000. Oh no, so you paid. Got your monthly there instead of your annually, and that's where I'm making one mistake. I couldn't see why I kept making the same mistake.
I'll just pull this one up. So that's my current rent that I pay. Can you see that one, Kelly?
Yeah, and that's inclusive of GST.
Correct. So they're my outgoings as well. So my rent's this one here, 3,123.
3,123. See, so we got 3,1 and the outgoings at 439.89 times 12.
So 5278.68.
Okay, so they're in effect, I don't see where they're getting their numbers from, because you've been paying more to what they're actually asking, from what I can see.
I'd say that amount's not including. I'm just going to go back to the other
Oh no,
one.
it's not including GST.
Yeah, plus GST, and I'd say it doesn't include outgoings.
But it makes no sense. 34 per annum plus GST, and then 4798 per month plus GST. So they're saying it's going to 4,798.80. Now, what's your invoice say?
My current invoice?
Yeah, the current one, because that's really what we've got to come off.
3563.1.
3563.1. That's all up.
That's all up.
So in effect, what they're saying is, so I can't see that. That's way more than bloody 4%.
Just having a look.
That's $1,200. Am I correct in saying that?
I'm just checking what they said my outgoings would go up to, and then I can.
You sent their letter. Your letter crossed over this letter, didn't it?
Yes. Yes. So I'm just going to stop sharing and just change what I'm sharing with you. So this was the original one they sent me. So this was the new one. So she said the rent would be 3570 plus GST for the year. So this was their new one that we are kind of negotiating with.
Yeah.
And then they're saying that the operating expenses at the moment, but they go up every year. They send me a bill at the end of the 12 months to say this is the extra that you owe us, is 4798.80. So that'll be the outgoings.
Okay. So what's the date of your letter that you sent them?
The date of my letter is just trying to find it.
See, we're still functioning in holiday mode there. Trying to get her brains tuned in.
The 15th of the 4th.
And she said it should have been in by the 12th.
That's the date of the letter. I'm not sure what the envelope, I've got the envelope there somewhere. I'm not sure what the envelope was dated. But I didn't receive the letter until Thursday last week, and I check the mail every day.
On the right to renew.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So on your right to renew, right, they put the date as the 12th, yes? And you responded on the 15th.
She hasn't, the letter, let me show you the letter. The letter is dated the 12th, but there's no actual date that they've said that I had to. She's just got effective 30th of April. The holding over provisions of the lease will apply. There's no actual date to say this was the date that you had to.
I thought it said in there the 12th of April.
That's just the date of the letter, Kelly.
Okay, so let's have a look at the letter, the way the letter reads.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Just make it bigger. So the date's up here, the 12th.
Yeah. We note that the due date for exercising your option to renew it is passed. Okay, so when was the due date?
I'll have to go back through the old lease. I'm not 100%
We
sure.
acknowledge discussion since January in respect to whether they Okay, so this letter's crossed over, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think that what they're saying is, oh, we haven't negotiated the deal, but the holdover for you to stay there, the holdover is going to be this, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're actually saying.
Yes. And that amount that they're showing is for the new amount. Oh, wait. I don't think they've put it in properly. Can I just show you something?
That's what's confusing me.
Yeah.
I don't think
So, see on that letter, it's got 34070 per annum plus GST, and then that amount 4798.
Yeah.
If I go back to this letter originally, they've actually got the wrong amount. See, the 4798 is the outgoings per year.
Yeah.
I just think they've had a typo because that they're showing that amount up here, but they're not showing the monthly amount.
Well, I think what the thing to do, there's a matter of urgency in this now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a matter of getting on the phone this morning with her and saying, okay, I received your letter, and you've known full well that we're going to continue to lease, and we've been deciding whether we reserve our option or we'd negotiate the new lease. We've chosen to as per my letter, we've chosen to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to ask what is meant by holdover terms, right? That's the thing. We advise rental payment will remain as current. So as current should mean what you're paying now.
Mm-hmm.
I think and then you say that's the typo, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what you want to confirm with her really is, well, you're negotiating the new lease, you'll pay the old lease. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's the only thing, rather than trying to work out what the heck's going on. The only thing that we must do is say, yes, we want to negotiate a new lease, and we our letters crossed over in the mail, or whatever you want to say, right? And then you define what is holdover.
Okay.
What do you think?
I agree. And then I might just forward that conversation in an email so I have documentation of it after I've spoken to her.
Oh, yes. Well, I'd even record it.
How do you record it on your phone?
Well, I think you'll work it out faster than I will, but you can.
Okay.
And so if you look at it, if you look at it, there must be a way to record the conversation.
Mm-hmm. I can look at that. That's not a problem.
Well, certainly if you phoned on Skype, you could record it.
Mm.
It's a little bit more expensive, but in my mind, I just don't know this whole thing. I'm trying to wrap my head around. We've got all these different numbers coming at us when really we just want to know one definitive number, right?
They just don't. It just seems they can't get their numbers right.
Well, no, they can't get the way that they communicate it to us. I would say to her is all terms and conditions lease will remain during the holdover period. It will remain in force during the holdover period. So what you're agreeing to is your current rent until you negotiate the new rent. Mm-hmm. That's the only question we have to ask, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then if she says yes, and you say, okay, fine. I wouldn't take it much further than that. And I would say, you actually do have a letter from me. Have you received it, or do I need to rescind it? Mm-hmm. Don't open the discussion up into any level of hostility.
No.
Which is my inclination right now, is to get a baseball bat out.
Yeah, I know. I understand. I have to play the game.
yeah, but we need to know exactly where they stand before we say anything. And we say, We've actually sent you a letter and we're happy to meet in person. What's the best available, what's the best time for you? And then you and I can go and meet her.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, because to me, I just don't like, based on the letter that we sent, right? We have questions that legitimately can be asked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like for them to say all terms and conditions of the lease will remain in force. So that's a lease that you've signed, not a lease that you're going to sign.
Mm-hmm.
And we just want to confirm that's it. We're not saying, oh, we're going to pay this, we're going to do all the stuff, because there's things on there we're just not going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's not all about money.
I agree.
And it's this for that. So I think we just must get on the phone and say, clearly our letters crossed over. That's the first thing I'd say.
Yes.
And then I'd say, yes, we want to be clear. We want to renegotiate the lease. And it's not option to renew your lease. So you're saying, oh, you've got this option to renew. Now, what we're saying is we did have the option to renew. Now we're going to your option to exercise the renegotiation of the lease. They're two different things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We note the due date to exercise the option to renew your lease has now passed. Well, we accepted that in your letter, right? If you remember what we wrote in your letter, bring up your letter. Can we have a split screen on it or not?
I don't know how to. I can't seem to do the split screen, Kelly.
Okay, well, let's look at what your letter is, because right there is like you already gave up the right to renew your lease. Now you're negotiating the new lease, right? And that's where they want to be. You've already agreed to that. So thank you for your email. Yeah, to renegotiate the 5-year lease with a 5-year option. So you've already stated that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the email. Yes, we'd like to renegotiate the 5-year lease with a 5-year option. Well, that's basically what she's saying. You forgave because you no longer have that option, is what I'm reading.
But there are other emails and conversations previously where we said, remember I was asking her what the difference was and that we wanted to go ahead, but I wanted to know what the difference was between.
But what she's doing, I think, in her letter is saying to you no longer have the right, you've lost the right to an option on your old lease.
Mm-hmm.
So now if you go back to the letter that she wrote to you, I think we've covered it. We note that the due date for you to exercise the option to renew, but you already, in the letter you sent her, you've already foregone the option by saying we'll renegotiate. So if you compare your letter to this letter,
mm-hmm.
you've already said that. And we have not received formal notice from you exercising the option or how you wish to proceed. Okay, you in your letter forgo the option and say we'll renegotiate the 5-year lease. That's what your letter in effect says, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, we acknowledge the discussion since January in respect to whether to exercise your option or to negotiate a new lease. So they're saying that there. We're currently waiting on your advice as to the offer provided to you. Now, if you go back to the letter that we sent, we've already answered this letter.
Yes.
We preempted this letter, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's sort of confusing me. So can you?
Well, she sent this letter before she'd received the email.
Yeah, I understand that. But if we go back to the other one, she's using snail mail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're using email.
Well, every other form of communication came via email, except this letter.
Okay, so now if you can see, because now.
Oh, actually, I like Ellie. She said here that they've emailed me, but I never received it via email. Because it's got on by email.
Well, I don't know that I call that a lie, Megan.
No, I'm just saying I haven't received it, so
I would say it's part of the misunderstanding that we're trying to look through and say, no, we need to have a clear understanding. All we're asking for is clear understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And you've actually answered her letter in this email.
Okay.
Right. So if you look at it, if you look at what she's saying, we've said these are the 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've given her the basis. And so the only thing that we have to confirm today is the holdover period is on the existing rent. We're not going to the new rent.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how they can enforce the new rent without an agreement. But, that may be some other law we don't understand. But I think we need to say, look, we'd like to get this negotiated in the next 6 weeks so that both parties know exactly where they stand. And we want to know in those 6 weeks our rent remains the same.
Okay.
Just simple, clear questions, Megan. And I'd get a recording of that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Sounds good.
Or the other way of doing it is to be on a speakerphone and just have a little recorder. Do you have one of those?
No, I'll work out how to record it, Kelly. I'm sure I can with an iPhone. And
I'm sure you can
and an
too.
Apple Mac.
Or with an Apple Mac, yeah.
Yep. All right.
God,
Okay.
bloody Telstra. Why do they ring every time I'm talking to you?
They must know.
Uh,
The other thing, Kelly, is can I stop sharing that now?
yeah, no, I think we're going around in a circle because we've already answered the questions. But I do think you need to get on the phone and just be clear about what the rent's going to be this month so that we know exactly where you stand. So if there's an urgency, I also think you should say, when can we meet?
Okay.
I can see you got an inbox like Anna's. That would drive me nuts.
I just can't even clear it.
Delete it.
Well, see, I've got to keep things in here because I go back to them. So this is, can you still see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I did research on where my money was for my bond. So everyone said they didn't have it. LazCorp was the company that sold the business to the new owners.
Yeah.
And the lady said that they sent the money, which is in this email, to the new owners. So it was adjusted in the purchaser's favour. And she said to me if I had any issues with this, of the new owners, with the new owners, that she would send me a letter from their lawyer to state that it had been paid to them. But it is
it's not if. I go straight back to her. They're giving you their problem now, Megan. I'd go straight back to them and said, please provide the letter.
Okay.
Don't mess around with it. Because what's happening right now is you and I are, you know why we're getting frustrated?
Just because it's going back and forward.
No, if you need, send me a fucking letter. That's $10,000. Excuse the way I'm speaking, but how dare she come back to you and say, oh, if you need a letter? No, that's her problem. It's not your problem. As discussed, I confirm that we did hold a bond for you for shop at that amount. That's my son now. See, it's frustrating. Everyone wants to move today. 9,750.51. That's your money, Megan. And I think it's unacceptable that what they're doing is saying, oh, if you need the letter, please feel free to contact me. Bollocks, send me the letter. I mean, you're very patient on $10,000.
I think when I got this was the other day, I spent the day, all day on the phone going back and forth between this company, the current company, and the old company because nobody could find it. So when I got this, when I was talking to her, she rang me and then she forwarded this. I was actually going to talk to Anna and just say, this is what I've been advised. And then make her go to them. That's what I was going to do. So I wasn't.
No, Megan.
I'll just get the letter then, Kelly. That's fine.
Yeah, and then you present the letter and say, you guys sort this out. This is not my problem.
Mm-hmm.
You're making this my problem. I mean, how ridiculous is that? They did it in the sales price.
Mm-hmm.
They used your money in the sales price, so they negotiated with your money,
Mm-hmm.
which is in effect what they did. And this other company should have actually taken that money and put it into bond. That's what it is. It's a bond. It's not a sales chattel. I mean, that's outrageous. Let's discuss and confirm that we did hold a bond for you in Shop 5. I don't even know if that could even be legal.
Well, it wasn't a bond because it was
It's a cash deposit, yeah?
it was a security deposit. They never gave me bond. I kept asking for bond paperwork and I was never given anything. So, but anyway, I'll follow that up, Kelly. I'll get the letter.
Oh,
Done.
I find that exhausting.
I just.
All right, let's move on. I've cleared my brain on that one. But that's something that we should be holding and saying to people, hang on a second here. What we actually want to do is we want to get the lease on a stable footing from when you took over.
Mm-hmm.
Because that, in effect, is what's going on. Right? It's like you're saying, you guys have taken this over. You're quite happy to be charging me this amount of money, right? You're quite happy to be doing that. But on the other hand, you're beating me over the head on this other thing. You say, you want a new lease? We want the square meterage and we want justification of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you pay too much for it, it's not our problem. Because that's in effect what's coming up. Now all of the stuff that wasn't dealt with before, we're having to deal with now. And of course, you've got me in the background saying we're not going to do that,
Mm-hmm.
which is not to your benefit in a lot of ways, is it?
I think it's to my benefit because obviously when I originally signed, I didn't understand completely. And I took advice from a lawyer that I don't believe, well, that didn't have my best interest at heart. So I think I'm learning a lot. It's just a bit, it is frustrating because I don't, I think just going back and forward is getting a bit frustrating.
Well, Meghan, the one problem I have is I'm a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
I don't sit down on most things. If I think that we've got to do something, then I'm the guy that'll say, hang on, we're not going to do that. So I don't want to lead you down a path that sees you not feeling like you've got control of what you're doing and you're saying, well, it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
To me, they're holding $10,000 of your money and have done for 5 years without really any acknowledgement of it. 2, they've been overcharging you because they haven't taken the time to really look at the square meterage of that because you've been saying, I don't agree with that, but you've tolerated it. Now all of a sudden they're saying, let's negotiate a new lease at a higher rate and without the things that we want in place. Now, I don't think anything you're asking for is outrageous. I don't think CPI increases is outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that knowing the official square meterage is outrageous. I don't think that you making the points on, what you're getting for your outgoings and you want to see how the outgoings are spent. They're all not your privilege. They're actually your right. Right. And then this other thing about sharing your proprietary information. I just don't see how anyone can do that. That to me is like, no, we're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then on the other side of it, still your decision. You're just getting my opinion, and you can hear that I'm a feisty guy around that stuff, and I just won't tolerate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think it's important to get on the phone. There's 2 things that I think are important. One is that letter, get a commitment on that letter, right? And I don't see, you physically paid cash, right? You put money in.
Yeah, I physically transferred cash. And it was seven years ago. So they've
Right.
had my, because what happened was when I re-signed 5 years, or I can't, I've got it all documented. I had to give them more because they increased the rent. And then when it's, yeah, so they've had that money now without putting it in a proper bank guarantee for 7 years. But it's just gone back and forth between whoever, and it's only been when I've questioned where's my money that they've gone, oh, it's here. Oh, they have it. They have it. Because last time I
guess
asked,
interest is not applicable to that stuff.
no, because last time I asked for a bank receipt because they lost it the first time, and I thought because it's a bank guarantee they'd give me a bank receipt. And then that's when they sent me an email with the details, but there was no receipt as such. It was just stating that they were holding my money as a security deposit. They said, we don't issue receipts.
Tape the call.
Mm-hmm. Will do. So I think on that one I've got with the letter to talk about what is meant by the holdover terms and to confirm that during
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. My apologies.
It's okay. And during the holdover period, the same terms on my current existing lease will apply.
Good morning, young fella. Come and say hello to Megan. Come on. Say hello to Megan.
Sebby, hello. Look at your hair.
Say hello, Megan.
Hello. How are you? You've
They're
got
getting bigger, aren't they?
He's huge.
Look
He's
at
so
this.
you start to see their faces just come boots.
Morning, Megan.
Morning, Anna. How are you?
Good, thanks.
That's good.
Let Chris know I got his email and I'm talking to Megan. Okay, you can take that. And Megan, do you mind if I tell Anna?
Yeah, that's fine.
They've been their property was sold from one company to another company. There was a $10,000 cash bond that Megan put down, and as part of the sale, they actually said, "Oh, instead of paying you the money, we'll reduce this, and then you put the money somewhere else." You understand that?
No.
No, they actually took Megan's money and made it part of the sale. They
Which you
reduced.
can't do because the money's held in trust or however.
The
Megan's
money's
money.
held for Megan, exactly.
Right.
But they never put it in trust.
And they never get they never give a receipt. But Megan's just received a letter to say yes, and this is what we did. We reduced the price to them so they could put the money somewhere else. I think that borders on illegal, personally.
Oh dear.
You think we've seen some chunky? That's terrible. Anyway, Megan,
Okay.
can you let Chris know?
Yes. Okay. See you, Megan.
Okay,
See
good.
you, Anna. Bye, Seb.
See
Bye,
you.
Megan.
Bye-bye.
He's
Yeah,
waving at you.
he's waving.
Bye.
They're getting, is Byron getting that big as well?
Oh, Byron's bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's started to say all the dogs' names. And the funny thing is, he started to say, he'll walk around the house and he'll say, Jerry, Tito. So he's being a bit cheeky.
All right. Well, let's move on from this, Megan. And you were saying to me, the key to what you're asking today, the only thing you want to know, there's two fundamentals you want to know today.
Mm-hmm.
The one fundamental is what rent will you be paying month by month until you renegotiate? Nothing else matters.
Mm-hmm.
So don't get caught in side conversations. And then the next thing that absolutely only matters is where's my money?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not a question of, oh, they made it like it's their money. It's not their money. It's where is my money and can you please send me a letter? And so when you're negotiating, you want to negotiate with that letter.
So when I ask where is the money, am I asking for a letter from the previous company or am I going back?
Yes. You're asking, first thing, step one, to go to that company is the only thing you want is a letter saying where your money is.
Mhm.
All right.
So when I talked to Anna, the first one, she's the lady from the current lease. I'm just asking her about the holdover terms and what rent I'll be paying.
Don't confuse, don't complicate the issues right now. It's when we sit down and say, once you know what the holdover is, that's all you want to know. Just don't get into all the side arguments. Just get an agreement that you'll continue to pay the rent as is.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mention anything about the 10K at this stage.
Okay, and then I'll just arrange a time to meet with her.
Yes, and you say, is it possible for us to meet?
Mm-hmm.
And clearly the best time to meet is, well, we're still going through all this bloody nonsense of April. So if we can get later this week, it'll probably be better, because next week it's going to go back to old routine, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So the sooner the better, if that's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll definitely make a point of being there. What we'd like to have is the letter.
Yes, I'll get onto that right now after we finish.
And we'd like to say, you know, these are all the things that we need to follow up, because you're going to go through your 5 points, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of your 5 points is you could see no reason why you'd put down $10,000 when your neighbor's only putting down 3.5
Mm-hmm.
or 5.
Yes.
All right, which means that you should get 5,000 back.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to make them bark a bit. Don't you think?
No, definitely.
Well, you know, the other side of it, you might say, well, you've had this money of mine for a while. Why don't we talk about rent free for about 3 months? Right? And that you'll give me a letter saying you're holding 5,000. That's how you negotiate it. That's why you don't want to tell her now. Do you understand my point?
Yes.
You take it and say, okay, now the key to it is we have that letter first.
Okay.
Right? And don't say anything about, you know, where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
If they're anywhere good, the company that you've been speaking to would have already told her. Right? They would have said, well, what's going on with this? Because there's impropriety there as far as I'm concerned. Now, it might not be illegal, but it certainly doesn't sound very kosher.
Mm-mm.
All right? So that's the 2 things we need. And then all of a sudden, do you think you're in a stronger negotiating position?
A lot stronger.
1, you know that the rent you're paying, so you feel comfortable with that. And 2, you know where your money is.
Mm-hmm.
You're not negotiating from a position of not knowing. We need to know. All right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Kelly.
Okay. So I think that's all we need to do. It's very clear. We need to just be very factual about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you need to read the letter that you sent, the letter that we put together last week. You need to read that. I think it already answers all the questions that she was asking anyway.
Yes, it does.
And I think that you'd already accepted that you were going to renegotiate, not take the option.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that now gets us a position of the outgoings, commitments on various things that they put in theirs, and it also gets a commitment from them as to where your money is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and I think they would have been much smarter to agree to the 5-year option. Anyway.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go over the numbers that we seemingly are avoiding, but I'm not. So let's have a look at that.
Let me just open this up. Just give me 2 secs, sorry. Just opening up now. So last week, obviously, I'll just share. Have I got it? Share. So I can't remember. This was The last.
Let's just compare. Like let's go last couple weeks.
So I'll just go back to this one first. So this was the end of March. So we were sitting around the 4994.
Can you average out on that on your spreadsheets? Can you average out the days? Because now what we have to look at is how the days are affected. Because with all these in-between days.
I'm not sure how to do that one.
Okay, so if we look at it, so we go back to the 1 week, you can see in effect what's happening on a daily basis, right? And then you can see the in-betweens. That's where you're going to see exactly whether it's a decline in business or it's actually just the way the market's trending because of all of these on-off days. Do you understand my point?
I do. I just don't know how to do it in this spreadsheet.
Okay, so go over into your L cell and take, you take the total 3635.8. Now you go up to your line 58. See where you go across on line 58. Okay, that's the first week, right? That's March, right?
The first week of March.
No. Let's start it. Let's just go to week 11. Okay, so now we go into the L row, and if we now take that and do add sum.
So.
Add sum. No, it's a calculation. It's not a. It's hit the plus button. Just take that and just hit your plus button. Delete what's in the cell. Just
so
hit plus button. Okay, go across the 3635.8.
This one?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then divide it by, it's 6 normally, isn't it? Okay, divide by 6. Now what did you get?
605.97.
Okay, so turn that into $1. Okay, now copy that formula. Right, now go down to your next one, which is 75. Your line 75, isn't it?
No, we did it on the one above. Should it be on the bottom one?
Well, it should be against that one there. Okay, it should be the next one down. It should be 59, yeah. Okay, so delete that. Okay, now copy that formula and take that down to line 75. Did it work? Okay,
No.
let's just go down to line 75 and let's do the same thing. Add some, just your plus, go across through your 3 sevens and then divide it. Okay, now keep doing that formula down so we can compare and see what's going on.
So then I'll just go to the next page.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore, Kelly.
Okay, now let's just go to the next page. So we're sitting around 600 and some odd. Okay, so go to your next page of information. Okay, now let's do that there.
This divided by 6.
Yeah. So you can see it's trending lower.
So this week here obviously was a 4-day.
Yes, but that's what you're starting to see. You're still having to pay for 6.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see all the between days, how they're affecting you.
Yes.
You understand my point?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is, I bet you any business you like, this is what's going to happen. I know it's happening in my business where if I look at it and say, okay, what's really happening? We can say, oh yeah, well, this is not going on. What we need to be watching is like, that's the problem right there. You understand my point? You've got, even though you're at work, you can absolutely see it by your numbers. 1627953. There's no numbers that are consistent.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to the 2-3, we've had a single day that can be 2-3.
I know.
Right. So you can be disheartened and say, oh well, it's because people don't love me. Right. Now let's go to the very top, to the beginning when we started doing scorecards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's run the same number there. 608. See?
Mm.
See, that's the number we got to now start watching, Megan.
Mm-hmm.
You get it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Kelly.
So the number that we want to focus on over the next 3 months is our daily average. And we want to take our daily average. So what we're focusing on is 2 things now. We're focusing on the upsell and the daily average. So really, we've got 3 questions to ask. Each week for the next 3 months, we're going to ask 3 questions at the beginning of the meeting. Mm-hmm. What are the 3 questions going to be?
Are they the ones that we're currently asking?
Yeah. So there's going to be 3 questions that you and I are going to focus on in our mind.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, appointments.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Number 2,
the daily average.
Daily average. And number 3,
the upsell.
The upsell.
Sorry, I thought you meant when you asked me that question, I thought you meant what was the question I'd ask at my staff meetings. That's why I kind of looked at you a bit funny.
No. This is for our conversation.
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
And then we relate it back. What are the questions you're asking your staff?
The amount of service appointments at the end of the day.
So you're wanting to know service appointments, yeah.
We're looking at the amount of services in dollar value.
Yeah.
And then we're looking at upsells during the day, which includes services and products.
Okay, and so now you can see how one services the other. Like your focus now is very clear as to where we're going, right?
Correct.
So if we can do that, so fundamentally there's the outside the business was what you and I are doing, appointments, daily average, upsell.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side of the business, we're going on service appointments, how you're making them, when you're on the phone, how's that coming about?
Mm-hmm.
Service value, and service value is about appointments and what you sell as the service appointment, right?
Yes.
So we're focusing on that, and at different times of the season, our language will be taking different services that we're focusing on, right?
Correct.
So that'll tie into your marketing.
Correct.
And then your upsell should be in products related to the service sold.
Our upsell here as well is not just products, it's in the room when they do add-ons.
Yes.
Yep. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And that falls into what I'm saying, is because you're actually in on the job doing it and saying,
Correct.
yeah, you've got that. But it's got to actually be seen not, and maybe we shouldn't call it upsell in the room. We should call it upservice. I
think upsell works better for us.
Okay.
Because that's the language that we use in the salon.
Okay. I'm just cognizant of the fact that you're really providing a service. It's not upselling as much as it is servicing the client for what you think they genuinely need. We don't want to get into this McDonald's idea. Well, you know, we just want a little bit more of your money by giving you a few more chips. No, you want some. You want to provide a service that adds value. Yes. And so that's why I distinguish between them. And I think it's important that you have a language that lets your staff know it's really about giving absolute value to the end user customer, not just making a sale. Because really the ongoing upsell is repeat business. You know, the real upsell could be, can I book you in for your next appointment? Right? I recommend 6 weeks. You understand the point?
I do.
Because they're now filling your book in for later down the track. And I think that that's one of the things that you really want to be very aware of, is that your staff needs to be aware of too. It's not about selling $10. It's about selling ongoing, repeatable business. What will that affect the most?
The figures.
Yeah, so what will it affect the most? Daily average.
The daily average.
You understand that what it'll do is it'll push it into not having to work so hard for the daily average. So that as you've got the exposure, the number one thing for a business is exposure. Am I exposed? Right? And the next part of it is, as when I'm exposing, does it add value? So have I added value? And there's only one way to measure value, Megan. Repeat profit at a price. So the way you know if you're adding value is if people come back and pay the price. You understand my point?
Yes, Kelly.
So it's very, very important that as we start going into this, and now to get you out of where this call started, which was with frustration, the real truth of it is that there's just so many things that you and I have been doing that we have to stabilize. We stabilize the brand. We stabilize the location. We know what products we can get. We know what we can do around that. But bringing in products where you're not stabilized makes no sense to me.
I agree.
So it's like, okay, we're going to go out and put at risk what you've done for the sake of speed. No, I think what we do is, you know, as much as I'd like to be doing all the other stuff, but this says, okay, we can make greater amounts of money. You've got to secure your base, right? And so in securing our base, to secure our base now, we've got to increase our daily average. And I would say we've got to take our daily average to $700 very quickly. And I don't think that's an unrealistic target.
Neither do I.
And I think I would set that with the girls post-haste. I'd be saying to them, you know, we must, and the second you get anywhere near 700, you got to change it to 800.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's no reason why we shouldn't be at 1,000, but we've got to increment it there because
I agree.
it's now going to go into people's minds. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Megan, is there anything else that's really pressing for you?
No, that's good, Kelly. That's all for now. Thank you.
Okay. Well, you know, I do want to do the second calls.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's important to us now, this is the second call from last week.
Yes.
It's good that we've done it because we have to deal with the frustration. I couldn't agree with you more.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing is now that we get that. And the same thing with Jerry's business. It's hard to be in action when nobody's in action. You know, it's like you can push all you want, but at some moment, it's like that could be dejecting, right?
I think for Jerry's business, it's hard because because he's running this NBN thing, which I don't think is he's not making much from it, and there's a lot of effort involved. And I think then he's also trying to look for work, and he doesn't have as many builders as he used to have, and it's all just kind of a cycle, Kelly. And then the financial strain of, you know, it's just.
Yeah, well, and again, that's part of being in business and making decisions for yourself. And
Exactly.
I've gone through it many times, and I'm not saying it's something that I recommend. It's just something that I personally do. I understand it. I'm saying, okay, well, how do we improve upon that? Well, you improve upon it by being really not harder workers, better managers, and have a better understanding of what you actually want. Right? And it's like, to me, Megan, you're going to be a great manager. That's what you do. And you put some more gears on who you are, and all of a sudden, you've got a lot more leverage. You understand my point?
Mm-hmm.
You do that, and it seems to me that's where you want to go. It's not about working harder or working smarter. You have to work both hard and smart at the appropriate times.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all I'm doing is giving you a different level of confront.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You understand my point?
Yes.
I'm saying you can ask that.
Mm-hmm.
I know you want to ask a lot of times, and I know you're smart enough to know that. It's just having someone that says, no, we're going to confront this.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do it, you get a very different level of understanding.
Yes.
I think that's all I can provide, Megan. I'm no smarter than you. In fact, I don't think I'm as good a manager as you.
I don't know, Kelly.
No, I've got a lot more experience. That's what separates us out. Right? I've been through what you're talking about 1,000 times.
I know.
And that's really what I bring is that experience of that. And I encourage you to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Good, bad, or ugly, you still got to make them.
Yes.
And when they're ugly, you got to realize they're ugly and move on.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right. And I'll tell you, one of the ugly decisions that I've heard today is that $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that really is? That's attitude towards money.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand my point?
I understand. I think I have a different appreciation of that money now, whereas before I just didn't really feel that I had an option when they told me I had to do something. Whereas now I understand that I do have options.
Yeah, it's not only that, Megan. You had the money. Right. And at that moment, it's like, okay, well, it's easier to do that. Right. And now when it's harder because you may not have the money, and that's a lot of money by anyone's measure.
Mm-hmm.
And what it's giving you is that appreciation of that money. It's actually your money.
Yes.
Now, I thought when you're telling me at the beginning, it was a bank guarantee. So the bank said, okay, these guys are good. We'll guarantee that money. But it's physical money you paid.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, now we need to understand that we got to squeeze the blood out of that money.
Yes.
All right. And I mean that literally.
No, I'll follow that up once we finish, Kelly.
Yeah. There's two things. You don't want to pay any more money by knowing the rents.
Mm-hmm.
Two is let's find that money.
Yes.
Let's make sure that we know. And then when we negotiate, it won't be you asking, it'll be me asking, so that we don't put, I can be the real hard guy, and you can be, I'll be the bad cop, you be the good cop if you want. And it's like I'm saying, well, hang on a second, you've been hanging on to this money, you didn't even know you had it, you negotiated a deal with it. I think perhaps maybe what we can do is maybe get 3 months rent, and then you give us a thing on the rightful amount. So you negotiate. That's what negotiation is.
Yes.
So in effect, we can get maybe $15,000 or $20,000 worth of value for that 7 years of your use of your money. You understand my point?
Yes, I understand.
And so you may only end up with 5,000, but you're going to get between 10 and 15,000 or more in value, and still have the money materialized. As a matter of, you have a deposit on this, and we'll be clear about our deposit.
Yes.
Okay, Megan, how do you feel? What do you take away?
Kelly, I feel clearer about obviously what we spoke about today with the figures and looking at the daily average. Also, in regards to moving forward with the lease conversation, or with the two questions that we were talking about. So I'll follow that up today. So I feel good. I feel like I have a bit more of a plan of attack and a little bit more direction. So Kelly, how do you feel, and what do you take away from today?
Well, I have to say, Megan, I started in total confusion, which I don't like to be. I'm looking and dancing around all these numbers. And today I was totally confused about what the heck's going on. That to me is the timing and the sequence of what's going on. And when we finally get down to it and get down to what needs to be managed, I think we've got down to the fundamentals of what needs to be managed.
Yes.
The real issue is the daily average, right, and the amount of holidays that we've got. We've got to push those daily averages up. I think we need to secure for 5 years so we can move on with the greater plan that we have, right, that we're heading towards. I think we need to get that secure, and we do not need to be vulnerable. Right? We don't want to get into I'm going to press the button and I'm going to leave stuff, because that's just not going to happen. We want to get into a managed rental agreement on your property, so that we know exactly where we stand, so we can now forecast 5 years out. We don't want to be messing around with it too long.
I agree.
Because the longer you mess around with the rent, the longer it'll affect your daily average. And the longer it'll affect your long-term future. So what we need to do is we need to hop on those things, clean them up as fast as we can, so we can build forward.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense, Kelly.
So at the end of the call, I don't feel so in the dark and so frustrated. Now I see, okay, we're very clear about what we need to do, and let's just get on and do it.
Sounds good.
All right, and I'm available. If you're in the afternoon, any afternoon that you can get. Mornings is always hard for me. But if